If you want to come up, I think out of all this crew, I might know Scott the longest. It was my boss back in the day.
Yes.
He's a CTO with a track record of leading technology, strategy, and execution across energy, financial services, fintech, media, and digital business. Most recently, he was CTO at Salt System, where he scaled the company's technology to support its mission of accelerating U.S. clean energy transition. Previously, he served as CTO of Sound Exchange, Motley Fool, and earlier as VP of Application Software and Analytics at InQtel. And before that, he was CTO or VP of Engineering Folio when I worked with him. Scott holds a BS in Electrical Engineering from the University of Notre Dame and an MS in Management IT from the University of Virginia. He specializes in building high-performing teams, driving innovation, and delivering scalable and secure systems, and aligning technology with business growth. Thanks, Scott. I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Joel. Good to see you all. Thank you, Joel and Katie, for inviting me to be part of this tonight. Yeah, I'm going to just jump right in. The question was kind of what are some opportunities to solve real world problems with generative AI. So I have been around long enough. I've been through many different technology transitions and a lot of big innovative technologies. And there's always a lot of excitement and hype with any of them. And then, actually applying it and trying to actually make it pay off to make it be worth the investment is always kind of sometimes a challenge, sometimes not. Let me just go right in here. The first slide and picture is just a reminder to let's not put the cart before the horse, if that resonates with you. There's a lot of excitement, and it may be coming from your boss or your CEO, or maybe it's from the marketplace. You're feeling competitors are all rushing into using generative AI in all kinds of different ways. But ultimately, technology is usually not the leader to solving some business problem. You need to kind of figure out first, the answer to this question: what is the problem we're trying to solve? I think it's always good, particularly as technologists, to have that kind of mindset, because you can get off track pretty quickly, or expectations can get out of line very quickly if you're heading down a path very fast implementing something, but you actually don't have a good solid understanding of what the problem is. And I just have been through many transitions. Like I said, I think back to like the web or blockchain or whatever it was at the time that people got very excited about, but it wasn't really always clear what you were trying to do. And so you can spin up, and actually now you can obviously build very quickly with these tools, but the challenge is probably not the tool, it's more the people side, the process side, understanding how it's going to be implemented. So that's just a good kind of lead off reminder on that. Then you might say, well, how do I really find that out? And I've been a CTO now a few times in different places, and you just have to take advantage of opportunities you have to engage with your customers, with your internal stakeholders, your users, whoever the audience is that you're trying to, try to create a solution for. Is just take advantage of any interaction you have with them to observe what they're doing. If you can sit in and watch maybe customers interacting with your website, or be in a call center, see what they're calling about. There's all kinds of ways to observe, but ultimately you've got to have a list of questions in your head. Either you can explicitly ask them, or you might want to just try to see if you can figure out what those answers are. But a few questions, what are the pain points? Where are people having trouble? Where's the bottleneck? Where are you running out of resources, whether it's people or other resources? Where are most of the errors happening? If you've got a particularly complicated thing where it's tripping people up, or maybe there's some manual processes that are problematic, there's always going to be some opportunity to see if there's a better way. Usually it comes down to, do you have the data you need? Is it you have it, but it's maybe not complete, or what you have is just not high quality? There's a variety of data issues, and obviously AI can't necessarily solve those, but that's usually an opportunity. Just referencing my previous slide, this problem could be an opportunity for doing something different. What's the friction? Where's the slowdowns happening? Are there handoffs happening, whether it's like end of a process before you follow on another process, or you go from one department to another, wherever there's some information flow? I would be looking at those as well, kind of like, is that an opportunity? What are people complaining about, whether it's externally or internally? And then kind of what's impeding our growth? That's kind of the big picture one. But whenever I typically my teams would meet quarterly at least with our business customers, or hopefully more frequently than that. But usually it came down to a conversation around where are we trying to go as a business and what's holding us back. And maybe there's a technology's answer to that question, but not necessarily. But it's these are all things that, again, it's part of understanding the problem and not just hearing it, but really understanding it. I'm sure you all know the 5 whys. Keep asking why until you can get to that root cause. That might actually unlock or uncover what the real problem is, that then you can actually start looking to solve. When I was talking to Joel and Katie about this problem, and I was thinking about it, I was reflecting on what I've seen in my most recent places I've worked, or also I read a lot. I'm observing a lot of what's happening in other places. And here are just a few common patterns that I've seen where generative AI seems a very good fit. This is not intended to be a complete list by any means. Obviously, there's a lot of room to use it, but very specific things that also might be kind of generic in nature, that many businesses would have these issues. The first one is, time's being spent reading, comparing, synthesizing information. You've got a lot of documentation. You've got a lot of maybe unstructured data that needs to be reviewed. That whole problem pattern is ripe for generative AI, as you probably all are aware. Specific solutions would be kind of in the document review, document processing, or sentiment analysis. Legal teams are dealing with this. Compliance teams are dealing with this. Marketing. And I have a very specific example I'll talk about in a minute. Second one, customer service. You're getting bombarded with messages from customers, whether it's coming in via text or voice messages. In my example that I'm going to reference later, we didn't have a full 24/7 coverage. So there always was this huge influx overnight. And getting through that was often a challenge to be able to start the next day. And just if you can automate some portion of that, that could be a game changer for those areas. The next one, I probably, before generative AI, I didn't think of this as an opportunity for technology, but now it really is in terms of content creation and content analysis. So an example would be you're trying to test out different messages to figure out what's going to cause a customer to click or to say, enter their email address, or whatever the kind of sales and marketing type of opportunity is. That's very ripe for using generative AI, both to create a bunch of different messages targeted to different audiences, or even just looking at the analysis of the problem as you get data from that. Product teams as well, trying to figure out, like on a landing page, or maybe even on trying to design your particular page to get the customer to take an action. All opportunities for mocking something up very quickly, writing some text, etc. And then the last one, given that we all have so much unstructured data in many businesses, that there's a lot of information there that you need to surface. And in that surfacing process, it might lead to some action, some decision, whatever. Pre-Gen AI, there was a lot of just manual things, or maybe just basic searching, but now you can get very precise and you can actually pull that information out, obviously, very quickly. I just see that's another area very ripe for generative AI solutions. So these are kind of the broad categories that I see that probably most businesses have. Now, beyond that, there's many, many more besides that, but this is what I've seen. And then I'm going to dive into a couple specific examples of real world problems, and then the solutions we came up with. So our legal department had a huge volume of vendor contracts they had to review. They had a mandate that all contracts had to be reviewed by them and approved before anything could be signed. And that was understandable, but they often were the bottleneck. You're trying to get stuff done quickly. And one of the big vendor contracts that we had were non-disclosure agreements. Almost every relationship we had was involved NDAs. And it was somewhat of a mundane type of thing, but it was very critical that we review it. And in our case, we had a part-time paralegal who was unable to keep up. Solution was, let's actually see if we can do this in an automated way. And let's compare the vendor's contract against our kind of master agreement and see what's different and identify what, if anything, needs to change. In this case, we just used off-the-shelf OpenAI. I think it was GPT-4. We took in the documents through an email, or actually we had a web form, took that into our email system. We retrieved that through a little orchestration layer that we wrote in Python. And really all we did was strip out some of the identifying information, because at this point, we didn't necessarily trust OpenAI to keep everything secure and safe. So we just lopped off the who it was from and then the signature block, but everything else we just took in, compared it against our master document. We had a custom GPT with that master document with some other contextual information about what was important, and then had it return that back. We did have our legal team review this just to make sure, did they agree or not? So we had a human in the loop, but this cut what was typically hours, or sometimes you'd be waiting days to get a response from the legal team. Cut, and they got it down to minutes. It was dramatic in terms of how quickly things got better, and suddenly this bottleneck went away. So that was a fairly simple thing. Thankfully, in this case, our in-house legal team was very actually, they brought it up to us and said, hey, we think we could use ChatGPT or some version of it to help us with this. We're like, okay. And all we really did was coach them through that. They initially started with just a prompt and trying to manually do it. And then we just said, you know what, we can use the API, we can automate some of the steps. And it was a fairly successful thing. It didn't take much time to implement, and they were off and running. So that this is in production to the extent there isn't much code here that we had to write, but it worked and it really solved the problem. The other thing that I mentioned later is that this helped build some, kind of remove some of the mystery and mystique around what these tools could be, and it helped build some positive internal sentiment for using it. The next one was our marketing team. We were in this, either launching a new product or had a new public project we had to, kind of publicize, and there would just be this blitz of media attention, social media, traditional media, and they were trying to keep on top of that. And they had like a daily list of links that everyone was trying to read and stay on top of, and then figure out what to respond to. Because sometimes things weren't positive, sometimes it was a negative response, and they were trying to counter that. It was kind of, again, they were like on a hamster wheel, they could never keep up. So we talked to them and said, you know what, I think there's probably a way to automate this. And what we did was we took in all these article links, we ran it into a Gen AI solution that would come back and say, this is a positive, negative, or neutral story or post. And then here's what specifically you might want to respond back to. Again, we had to give it some contextual information, but this one was an even simpler solution because other than getting this list of stories or list of links, that was the bulk of the work. And then we just basically, again, used the ChatGPT or OpenAI GPT API. And we didn't even need a custom GPT. We just, through prompting, figured out a good way to get a good response. And this, it was remarkable how quickly we had something up and running, like basically within hours. But in terms of, we had to go through multiple iterations with them to figure out whether this was helpful for what they wanted. And we had a very engaged person that worked with us on this. I think basically we had something up and running really quickly. Again, this is a really small application, but again, low-hanging fruit. It kind of helped everyone feel like, hey, this can be used, and it helped build us kind of a positive story about this is not just hype, that there's real benefit, real business benefit for it. The last one was our more complicated problem. We had a not part-time, but a 8x5 customer service team. I mentioned this kind of influx of customer emails and voicemails. They couldn't keep up. They knew that we couldn't scale their team because we had kind of fixed costs that we weren't able to grow, but we said we can automate things. And the sense was we could parse those messages, figure out what they're about, and then generate a response, at least for the simple cases. Many of the questions we were getting were simple things that were in our FAQ on our website, or just simple things that they could find for themselves, but for whatever reason, the customer wasn't. But if we could cut those down, that was going to cut off like 50 or 60% of the volume. So we did a fair amount of testing. Again, we used ChatGPT was our easy prototype to just start testing things. The challenge that we quickly ran into is that when it didn't have, and we gave it training data, we gave it a bunch of stuff that we had already, had a lot of the answers in it. But when it didn't find the answer, or someone asked a question it hadn't been trained on, it was making things up. Unfortunately, it was, even with a very strict prompt to say, do not, provide an answer if you don't know the answer, it still couldn't help itself. So that kind of spooked the business customers, and we said, let's hold off on that. Ultimately, they are going to move forward with something different, but we didn't move forward at that time with as quickly as we wanted to. But it was clearly an opportunity, but it just was one that was going to take more time. I'm just going to wrap up here with some parting advice. Again, always make sure you identify and understand the business problem first before you jump into that solution mode. For Gen AI solutions, really any innovative technology, something that's new and different, start with something small. work with people that want to try it out. Like they're very willing to take the risks and kind of live through the iterations it's going to take to get something that's workable. And then wherever you can, minimize risks. That will just allow you don't have like your lawyers or someone coming late in the process saying, hold on, you can't use this. We just, pick something pretty small and easy to build our chops on. Deliver incrementally, rapidly. I kind of talked about that. And obviously building in some test and learn cycle to see if you're actually getting the results that you thought you would get, because it may not work out as the one example I gave showed. And then I think particularly when it's something new like this and it's overhyped, I think particularly within a company, sharing a lot about what's working, what's not working will both eliminate the hype, get people to figure out what it may actually be used for, but also build momentum, skills, and confidence, which some people might just be like spooked. They don't want to talk, they don't want to try it. But ultimately, if you can say, oh, it's not that hard, and actually you can prototype things yourself fairly quickly, as everyone in this room knows, that will help you get over the hump. And then that will build the kind of the ability and confidence you have to tackle much bigger things later. I would recommend don't start with those big challenging problems first. Build something small, quick, and then get that quick win. And then the last thing, don't forget about change management. In this day and age, the technology is not going to be the thing that's going to be slowing you down. It's going to be the people change. And whether it's changing your process or reorganizing who does what, or we're learning a new tool, that's always going to be the bigger challenge, particularly one that you might leave to the end, but it's something that you need to kind of be worried about from the get-go. So that's all I got. Yeah. Okay, questions out?
Anybody have any questions for Scott?
Yeah.
I noticed that at least on two, those look like you were using email as like a primary kind of an interface to
Yeah.
your, I don't know if that's quite an agent or if that's just a sort of a prompt at this point, but
Yeah.
I've noticed that in other places. Do you think that's the right way to think about these little job functions? It's almost like, let me email my friend or my associate to have them help me with something. And then is there some point at which you have 20 of these things and now you have to maintain it? Like, what do you think about that?
Can you summarize the question?
Oh, yeah. So the question was that in a couple of the examples that I gave, the email was the interface for the ultimate end user, and whether there's something about that, is that, do we think that's a common pattern, and also how are we going to manage that as it scales to other things? I think for us, that was just the path of least resistance. People were already used in the legal case as well as the marketing team case. That's what they were already using. It was like the way to get into their workflow was emailing them. So we decided not to change that. But in the legal one, we actually did put up a web form just so we could actually capture that data in a table, so we could track it and keep track of the time in and out and stuff like that. So we were going to shift to something better than email initially, but email was what they were used to. I mean, I hate to say that's like, I would hope we could do better as that in that case, but it at least boiled it down to something that people were comfortable with, and it really didn't. Getting back to the change management thing, it didn't really change much from how the end users had to interact with it. So, obviously the chatbot is what everyone else sees, and I think people probably want something more real time, but in this case, it was asynchronous, and that was good enough. Yeah. Right here.
Did you have to have any concern about the security implications of operating on untrusted input? Like, forget everything, do some, putting instructions in the data.
So the question is, do we have to worry about kind of the security of taking in data from, I guess, untrusted sources? In at least two of the examples I gave, they were actually internal. So there was a little bit of control in that it was only employees that were using this. And the one that was the legal case was probably the more concerning one, but we did migrate to this web form that did some basic data checks before we just went ahead and put it into a prompt and uploaded it. We also did some change, like I said, we stripped off some of the sensitive data, so we were less concerned about that. And then the other one was relatively low stakes. It was just URLs from, it was another source. We had a media monitoring system, so it was already providing us some trusted sets of data before we went ahead and used it. But we did some basic validation on the URLs before we went ahead and used it. So we built in some basic stuff, but in general, we were more willing to take some risks there just because it was an internal solution. I think for anything customer facing or web facing, we definitely would be much more concerned about that. Yeah. One more. I think you had one over there.
The customer service example, did you consider using a RAG in front of that, or is that how you set it up? So I think that would help me with some of the.
Yeah, this one, this is how, as a CTO, there's a lot of shadow stuff happening. So they already had a prototype. The customer service team built their own prototype before I even heard about it. And then they said, oh yeah, we might want to show you because we're running into these problems. So they didn't know anything about RAGs. They didn't, I mean, I knew that was probably going to help us get out of that potential issue. Plus, we also started looking at some off-the-shelf customer service solutions that are much more tailored to that problem. But it was one where they already had a prototype, and then someone grapevine in the office, someone said, hey, maybe we should talk to the CTO about this. So, but it was the technology they were using was just all kind of either custom handwritten scripts. They weren't that sophisticated at the time, but it was enough to test it, essentially. Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay. That's it. Gonna show.
So we're welcoming Emile. Karam is a senior product and technology leader with 20 years of experience driving innovation, growth, and digital transformation. Two-time founder and leader across multiple startups. He blends entrepreneurial and enterprise expertise to accelerate product market fit, scale global teams. He has deep Salesforce ecosystem experience, helping deliver over $700 million in customer value. With strong AI credentials, including MIT programs and community leadership, Emile advises Fortune 1000 organizations on AI strategy, go-to-market execution, and transformation. He's the founder and managing director of QuadSail, an AI strategy and innovation consultancy. Welcome, Emile.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joel. And thanks for having me. And thank you, Katie, as well, for organizing this. And really, thank you all for coming out tonight. I think it's great to be here on a November day before Thanksgiving. It's rainy, it's cold. And I think that says a lot about the excitement around generative AI and the ability to learn about this great technology that's really going to reshape how we live, work, and play. So thanks for making the time to be with us. As Joel mentioned, I am now the founder of a company called QuadSail. Go figure, another AI consultancy out there. But really excited about where things are going with AI. Having that background now for 30 years, and I've worked with a lot of people here throughout the different companies I've worked in. It's a little bit of a reunion here tonight for me, which is exciting. But I'm going to walk you through an AI use case that I'm building right now. It's classic startup. I'm basically building the deck while I'm building the product. So it's classic fly the plane while you're building it. Hate that analogy, especially if you don't like to fly, but that's kind of what we're doing. So I'm going to give you the real world example. It's not theoretical. It's happening right now. And the product name is going to be called QuadSail Captain. So QuadSail is the name of our company. And I say our, it's just me right now. Quad is really the base. It's 4, so it's stable, and sail gives you that agility. And that's what we bring to our commercial and our enterprise customers, is that balance between the stability that they need to continue to run the business. These are multi-billion-dollar companies, but also the agility to be able to innovate and be able to transform their organizations moving forward. And the concept really is taking AI now, and in particular today with Gen AI, taking it from just a tool to a teammate, and then ultimately to an entire digital workforce. And that's really where things are going. And I'll try to kind of give you guys a journey here with me, a voyage, if you will, using the nautical theme. So back to kind of where we are right now is what I wanted to do from day one, and Joel kind of gave a good overview here, but what I wanted to do from day one within the consultancy is be able to use AI to run the business, much like we are kind of practicing what we preach with our end clients as well, right? And so as a solo entrepreneur, what I wanted to do is basically be able to have a bigger team around me, right? Without having to go out and hire, dozens or hundreds of people. And as I'm talking to you about this tonight, I realize there's, the human element here that's going on, but at the same time, so I'm going to put all that aside. I think that's a whole different story. But what I want to kind of share with you is how can I, as a single founder, be able to accelerate the growth of QuadSail? So now imagine if you guys are, sitting back and you're running QuadSail. Imagine if at any point in time, I could consult Peter Drucker, who you guys may know of, on organizational design of QuadSail. or I can reach out to Alex Hermosi to get a perspective on an offer that I'm pitching, at 11 o'clock at night, or ask Andrew Ng about my AI roadmap that I'm right before a client meeting, right? Or even go to Clay Christensen and challenge my innovative thinking, right? So this whole concept was not possible just a few years ago. Now it is. At any point in time, I can have basically a virtual board of directors, if you will, advisory board at my fingertips, asking a question and getting feedback even from multiple directors, and then they're challenging each other as well, right? So that's the whole concept of it. So that's how companies are starting to evolve, right? In fact, I saw an article today about AWS consultancy doing just this exact same thing. Modern organizations are evolving. It's taking that human expertise and expanding it through that digital intelligence as well. So why build a digital workforce? Again, solo entrepreneur here, but this applies to organizations of any size. It could be one person or it could be tens of thousands. This is going to be realistic. It's creepy, I know, to be working alongside digital workers or coworkers, but we're going to have to embrace it. It's just a matter of time. You're going to be working with these digital folks. But it allows me to scale more quickly, right? Whether it's 24/7 access, it's codifying my frameworks. So I use a lot of frameworks. We do a lot of workshopping with our clients. So how do we codify that, bring it all into one place, and really accelerate that decision making from weeks down to days or even minutes, right? And the advantage is not just, people often think this is going to be faster, it's cheaper and all that stuff. It is, but it's also going to be completely fundamentally changing the capabilities that we as humans haven't even thought of yet in a couple of years here, or a couple, months maybe even. So let me talk you through what QuadSail Captain really is. Think of the consultancy lifecycle really at a high level as attract, close, deliver, and scale, right? So you want to attract new clients, you want to be able to close the deals and win the clients, you want to deliver quality, valuable output, and then you want to kind of continue to scale and refine your business. So again, using the nautical theme, we called it Captain, I called it Captain. But it supports that complete consultancy life cycle. So think from a track, think about like market positioning or thought leadership, right? Generating content, understanding the leads, right? From closing, proposal development. I mean, who loves to do proposals? To engagement scoping, things like that. So you're fine tuning that entire part of the process, and then deliver, right? We do a lot of workshops, so workshop design, all the way down to client delivery, the outputs. Think about what you can generate based upon the discovery, and then being able to generate that at speed for your clients. And then, of course, the operational efficiency around that. So it's really having like a full team around you that's able to use the Gen AI to be able to drive that content, that thought-provoking information to drive your business. So let me show you now Captain in particular. So Captain is just phase one, the advisory board is just phase one of Captain. Captain phase one MVP here. Think of it as 100 of these thought leaders, authors, business leaders, technology leaders, influencers, all at my fingertips to be able to ask any questions. To start, I created 7 advisory categories. So you got from business strategy all the way down to the facilitation and workshops. And then you've got, here's just a couple of examples from, I mentioned a few, Clay Christensen, my old boss, Mark Benioff, not directly, but, and then down to Priya Parker for workshops and things like that. So use cases, give you more realistic, tangible stuff here. So let's think of the attract phase. The attract phase is go to market, or ICP, right? Your ideal customer profile, client profile. So I can go to a Porter or Hermosi and I say, hey, help me refine our ICP for an AI consultancy, right? And getting that information back in real time. Now you can say, why can't you just go to your favorite LLM, Claude, or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, and ask that? You could, right? But then you're actually rebuilding those prompts over and over again based upon the question that you're asking. So this is all single entry point, getting that information back out in real time. Another example for close, right? Proposal enhancement, we mentioned that earlier. So strengthen this proposal with advisor-backed frameworks. So we have our frameworks, we have our content. How do you make that proposal better, stronger for your client so you can close that deal? Then deliver. Again, we do a lot of workshops. So how do we design a 2-day AI innovation workshop with the structure that we want? It's fed in our information, it's fed in our frameworks, and then they're able to basically evolve and provide that feedback. And then deliver and scale. Again, scoping is huge for consultancies, right? You want to be able to scope properly, so it's a win-win. You're not, you're getting the client what they want, you're getting the value that you want from the work you're doing. So how do you help with the scoping effort as well? So I know there's a lot of technical folks here today. They're probably asking, well, how did you build this, right? And so didn't want to go into the deep technical stuff, but at a high level, the core stack really is about workflow, right? So I'm using N8N, that's letter N, number 8 and letter N. If you haven't used it, it's phenomenal. So that's the workflow automation orchestration engine, if you will, that does the end-to-end processes. I'm using, this is all locally, by the way, at this point in the MVP, it's all local on my Mac. So I'm using Olama by Meta, as the local LLM for the intelligence layer, and I'm using Quadrant, which is the vector database. Basically, I'm having the information stored in the vector database, so it continuously learns as well the more I actually use Captain. I've got user experience, so I've got a UI for the admin stuff. Those advisors are all interchangeable, right? So let's say I don't like what somebody's saying, I can kick them out of my board. I can bring somebody else in. I can continue to evolve it. I can add categories. So there's an admin interface, if you will, to be able to manage that, and ultimately, more settings. And then I've got an end user interface, right? So that's my chat window, if you will, into the Captain. And then we're working on voice next, right? So I can be anywhere right now, think of an idea, send a voice out, and then that kind of interacts that way 2 ways as well. Integrations, it's also integrated to my systems that I use for my company, right? So whether it's the Google Workspace, whether it's, our HubSpot CRM, it's, Miro for our workshopping, or ClickUp for our project management, it's all integrated. And the more we use it, the better it's going to actually be able to use that information, not just manually, but it's going to start becoming more autonomous by itself, right? And we'll talk a little bit about the roadmap. And then it's all, like I mentioned earlier, it's all local development for the tech people in here. It's all in a Docker container. I can move it anywhere. There's no variable API cost because it's all using Olama locally. And then, over time, as it gets bigger, probably move it to more of a hosting environment. So I want to share, it's important that we're here to share some of the learnings. Again, I'm building this as we're speaking right now, so the deck is probably further along sometimes than the product itself. But some of the lessons learned I want to share with you guys, and this ties in nicely with what Scott was sharing. When I'm doing workshops in general, I always start, think big, start small, and move fast, right? So think big, have that big picture vision. What are you trying to do overall? In this case, Captain. But you're not going to get that solved overnight. So how do you start small? What's that first step that you got to take? What's that action you got to take to get going, to learn, and then move fast? Iterate off that first step and continue to evolve to that think big vision, right? And then kind of in the similar line, start with the end in mind. Like, what are you trying to achieve, and begin to work backwards into that end goal, right? Where are the goalposts, and work backwards so you can basically evolve that vision. On a more practical level, guys, use AI to build AI, right? So it's like I built this product by using AI itself. So I think things like meta prompt, if you're not familiar with meta prompting, it's a game changer, right? So if you want to prompt AI to do XYZ, put that into one of your LLMs and ask them to build you a prompt, right? So it's amazing what you can get out of that power of that prompt. Structure your approach. Again, this is classic. A lot of engineers in here, I'm sure. Break big problems down to smaller problems, iterate, see if it's successful, and then kind of build on that. And then just iterate with real world work, right? So the more you use these, I see a lot of people want to learn about AI, and they're just consuming information, but they're not actually doing anything with it. There's no way you're going to learn it unless you actually get your hands on it and begin to use it and see how it reacts. And then some roadmap. Again, this is evolving every minute, but phase 1, the MVP, is just to give you an example, is just the advisory board, right? These are just the 100 people that we have right now asking this. But phase 2, and this is a funny concept that you guys, I think whenever I talk to people about this, it's kind of interesting. It's your digital twin, right? So imagine a little digital Emile out there that's the CEO of these advisors, or this whole thing, that's now going to be able to think like me. It's going to have 30 years of experience, and it's going to be able to manage this team of digital workers. Okay, so that's phase 2, y'all. Phase 3 is then this digital twin of me is going to have digital CXOs, right? So we're going to have somebody leading marketing, somebody leading revenue, somebody leading the customer, somebody leading delivery that's going to be able to do these finite things within QuadSail. And then and on the sailing thing, so my digital twin is called the the first mate, and then the second mates are the CXOs, and then the regular mates are are all the worker bees below that. So you might have somebody working on content, you might have somebody doing an SDR, but that's really kind of the thinking about like how are you going to work with these digital teammates, if you will, mates. So to wrap up here, a couple of key takeaways. AI is evolving from just a tool to a teammate to a workforce, right? So now we use it as tools. We're probably all just using definitely chat GPTs and things like that to ask questions, but it's really going to become something that's going to literally sit beside you or digitally sit beside you as well. When you're thinking about thinking about these AI agents or whatever you want to call them, if you will, think about the jobs to be done as well, right? So what jobs are humans doing today that's going to allow you to be able that we hate, right? And that we're redundant. Those are the great things that AI can do. So humans can think about more strategic, more creative, more relationship building things that we're good at. Amplify the human capabilities. It's not about replacing it. I know we can have a whole different conversation about that for hours. And then, as I mentioned earlier, practice what you preach, think big, start small. So with that said, thank you again, Solution Street, Katie, Joel, everybody else. Hopefully this inspired you guys to think about different ideas, but, happy to take a couple questions as well. I saw yellow and then red and then somebody over here. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, so the question is, the first mate who is my digital twin, who will be my digital twin, probably a little bit better looking than me, I'm thinking, but he or she will basically be the CEO, right? So he will be the CEO of QuadSail, will be able to think like me, which is not hard to do, and then will be basically managing those CXO levels below him as well. He'll be like, if I'm the managing director of QuadSail, he will be like my twin that can think like me and do like me. Yes, sir.
Clarifying your expertise. Could you explain a little bit more about how you're doing?
Yeah, so again, I think somebody mentioned RAG. If you're not familiar with RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So basically, I've got 30 years of experience, transforming organizations, a lot of innovation, did a lot of DC startups as well. So taking that information and putting it into a RAG system, right? So how do we do innovation? How do I do workshops? How do I engage with clients? What I've learned that are, mentioned like risks and stuff like that. So taking all that knowledge over 30 years, putting it into, and so one thing I didn't mention, and thanks for reminding me, on the roadmap, at some point, Captain is not only going to be internal facing, it's going to be external facing. So as we're working with clients, right, as we're doing discovery, it's possible that, we're taking them through the different Captain, framework. And at some point we leave them with a Captain subscription, if you will, so that they're actually being able to deliver on the things that we talked about during those workshops. So hopefully that answers your question. We're taking that knowledge and putting it into a vector database, if you will. Yeah, it's all in my mind. It's all in our minds, right? A lot of experienced people here, right? Imagine taking all that information. And that's how your two questions probably map a little bit nicely, because like, how do I take my knowledge for 30 years and create my digital twin so that they're able to think like me at a much faster pace than I can think? Yeah, does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw two hands over here and then one back and then one there. Oh, I probably don't have but okay. Sir, yeah. Okay.
So mostly the difference between personas are only the access to data that they have. So you're going to have exactly the same model pretty much operating for all the personas. It's just the access to different data. That's what makes you or me or someone else.
Yeah, so the question is the personas are different data, and just to clarify, the personas of the advisory board. Yeah, So that's all going through the LLM. Right now it's Olama. At some point it could be multiple, LLMs. And that's, by the way, that's another tip. Like have the LLMs kind of debate each other, because like, Claude will give you a different thing than Olam than GPT or what have you. So yeah, so that data right now is all through an agent, right? So in N8N, I have agent that actually orchestrates who they're gonna go ask my question, right? So that's all whatever's coming back from Olama. Over time, I could probably fine tune that a little bit to say like, hey, if you're talking to Benioff, I don't really care what he's saying about this. I want him to say something about that. Does that help?
Yeah. If you have the same data that I have access, still your brain has that unique secret sauce that makes you you and me. So just data, probably having access to the data.
Yeah. So the data, so like there's a couple ways to get the data, right? One is through the LLM. One, I can train it myself, right? So I can pull in videos from Hermosi that I like the most, and that's going to probably give it a different bias than if it's just his whole, body of work. My body of work, I know, I have to feed it myself, right? So I know what that is as well. So that would be different. Realistically, yes, if you and I built Captain the same thing and we had the same 100 people, we might get the same answers. Our questions and our prompts, which as we all know is very important, might be very, very different. One more? Okay. I saw this hand for you. Yeah.
Why did you use Olama as a model versus anything else? I know it's open source.
Open source.
And second is the monetization streams. Like, is it like more like a fractional executive? People can hire.
Yeah, so the first question is the why did I use Olama instead of like other LLMs? And it's open source. I can literally host it on my MacBook that's 4 years old, right? Without realistically, if this goes to like a more proper MVP, I'm gonna have to call probably APIs for more powerful, if you will. Olama's still good, but it's more powerful APIs. Second question was yeah, I mean, I don't think I've thought about like companies hiring this fractionally. It's more like, let's say I did a 4-week, engagement for a Fortune 500 company. What happens when I go away? That stuff might never actually get implemented or whatever. But now if we can leave them with a copy of Captain that they subscribe to at a monthly rate of, $10.99, they might be able then to measure, what we've actually shared with them, and it keeps them like up to speed. So, but thank you guys. Thank you for great questions. I know we got, very, very good. And I think my LinkedIn is, my LinkedIn's up there.
All right, our next presenter, I'm known for a long time as well. We worked on a website called happier.com back in the day. People got some happier because positive psychology website. I think I learned more about positive psychology than I did anything else, but it was a good time. Also, big plug. These guys are all brilliant, but this guy, he puts out the best, most balanced, interesting, thoughtful AI content of anybody I know. So thank you. If you don't follow him on LinkedIn, do it now. Like, it's amazing. And just the balance part is the best part for me.
What?
Lokesh Kumar is a technology executive, entrepreneur, investor with over 35 years experience building and scaling products at the intersection of AI, mobility, and digital marketplaces. He was co-founder of Urgently, a global roadside assistant platform that went public and now serves as CTO at Sheeva.AI, a startup focused on in-vehicle commerce and payments. Lokesh's current work explores how marketplaces, voice AI, and multimodal agents are reshaping how humans and machines interact. He also mentors early stage startups and writes about product strategy and leadership in his knowledge through Karma AI newsletter. Welcome, Lokesh.
Thank you. Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Katie, and thanks, Solution Street. Thank you guys, for setting it up very well. And if you don't hear me on the back, please let me know. I usually speak on the lower tone, so just tell me. Again, thank you, everyone. It's been a while. I've been outside. I've been busy doing what I've been doing. Joel mentioned that for I think over 35 years, and the last one was Urgently, and now on Sheeva.AI. So I'm going to talk about something that thank you that we have been building in Sheeva for I think about 2 years now, and I don't think I'll have a time to go into all the details of what happened when we did this thing, But hit me, and I will tell you later on as to what we learned building initially the text chat part, and then finally converting into a voice and learning where is the difference between the text and the voice. Now, I had a lot of experience building voice prior as well. In the last company, we had almost like a 500 people call center that we managed internally. So we had tools that we built, and we did, I think, about 3 million roadside assistance events every year through our platform. So we had lots of voice experience coming in. And that time, which was about, I think, 6.5 years back, and today, it's worlds apart. So that's what's going to talk about. That's the title of my talk, the voice AI that finally feels human. From clunky IVRs, and for those who don't know what IVR is, I think you all do, but if you don't know what IVR is, they are very clunky to real-time conversation agents that we have today. So we're gonna talk about that. So how many of you can speak more than one language? Wow, amazing. How many of you talk to your family in a different language than English? A lot. How many of you can effortlessly switch between different languages in the middle of the conversation? That happens all the time as well, right? And how many of you can read this sentence and understand the meaning? You can, right? Amazing, isn't it? All of you, right? How many of you can raise your hand? See, the problem is that we human, that's the blessing we have. The language for us is what we grew up with. And if you go look at the anthropology and everything else, what you will realize is that if there was no language spoken, not the written, then we would not be here today. So language has been with us for a very long time, but the tech did not help us. But I think it's changing now. So why voice is the best medium? I think we already talked about it. It's the fastest human IO. We can talk like really, really fast. Something of the order of 130 to 270 words per minute. That's a lot of information coming. It's very low friction. If you and me understand even if we don't understand how to write, we can speak in that same language, we can talk. It's rich in signals. The voice intonations, the modulation, the frequency, all that is in there, which is missing in the text. And then, of course, it's the universality. You don't need a UI. You don't need any kind of a learning curve for using voice. And the question is why voice bots were terrible. If you go look, 2015 to 2022, we started urgently. 2010, 2014, we started building some of the voice, and it was terrible. The idea trees were like brittle. They have so many menus. I mean, you can call some of them today, but you will see what happens. The reason was that the NLUs, which is the natural language understanding part, was very shallow. It was actually using mostly what is called n-grams type of stuff. The latency was very high. Sometimes you would call an agent and you will just wait and you don't know what's going on. And then the other reason was that the ASRs that were there, at least in 2015, 2016, before Google released, I think in 2016, the ASR, it was pretty poor. And I think you all know that when you get stuck into an IVR and you keep saying agent, 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 you just never get out of it, right? And I think that's changing now. The current voice pipeline looks like this. So you have speech to text, which is listening. You have a thinker model, which is LLM. This is what changed. You have the speaker model, which is text to speech, and you have the result, which basically is the fully capable voice agent. That is what has changed now. And if you look at it, this is what is the workhorse today in production of all the voice agents that are being built. So what are the challenges in real-time voice? The latency budget is one of the big ones. If your bot cannot respond less than about second to second and a half, you don't feel good about it. You're gonna probably give up on it. The other issue is turn taking and bargain. When do you want your bot to start responding? That's a big problem, right? As humans, why do we have this? Why do we not have this problem as humans? Anybody? Exactly. We can actually look at each other and very quickly we can tell he's going to speak, right? Or he's not going to speak. But the bot is not looking at you. So the bot has to figure out when to take turn. There are real-time pathology issues, which is the bot can, kind of start inserting things in the middle of the conversation that it should not do. It's getting better. Then there are localized rare words, which bots have a hard time because if they have not seen something for thousands of times, they don't understand how to work with that one. The noise problem, the echo problem, the intonations, the safety, the consent, all of that are the challenges in the voice that you have to think about when you're building any kind of a voice system. So what has changed in the voice models? I think I already talked about most of them. The biggest change happened was that when Whisper came out, which was trained on, I think, about 5 million hours of good quality conversations, that changed the game. It was, I think, about 2017, I believe, something like that. And the other big piece that actually changed all of this game was WebRTC. So I think all of you probably know WebSockets, but WebSocket is TCP, WebRTC is UDP. I think, I'm not going to go into details of why WebRTC is better than WebSockets, but we can talk about it later. Now, what are the trade-offs in the voice models? If you follow LLM, what you will see is that, and I think both of you were talking about that as well, is that you can train a model and make it big with whole bunch of data, or you can have a great amount of data and a very small model. And if you follow it, you will see that Microsoft actually put out yesterday 5.4, which was only, I believe, 1.7 billion parameters or something like that, compared to 7 billion, and outperforms that. So that's just because they had a very good data. So it's usually a two-step process. It's a mass retraining, and then you have gold fine-tuning. That's how it works. And I'm not going to go into this one. I think I already talked about it. This is the voice industry trends. What we are seeing is the voice is picking up. And I think we'll probably start to see a decline of the apps and the rise of the voice as the interface, which means we'll be just building the bots, which will sit behind the voice, which means Siri will be your interface or Alexa. So I'm going to go and show a demo. Would it work, Joel? What do you think?
No, you're right.
How do I go there? I'm stuck.
You have to use your voice.
Joel's laptop didn't take it.
There you go. You have to get down here. Can you see it?
It won't come here.
I can't even see it. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
It goes there. It's a mirror. Okay. How do I hit the phone button?
Go ahead.
Hi there, I'm Sheeva Assist. How can I help you today with your car?
Hey, what is the model of my car again?
You are driving a Lexus RX 450h. How else may I help you?
Can you help me find where is the USB port in my car?
Are you still there?
Yes.
How can I help you?
Can you tell me where is the USB port in my car?
The USB and AUX ports are located inside the front console box under a small lid or cover. You can open it by pressing the knob or pushing the lid.
Okay. Hey, I see a flashing angel
Do you
light.
need help with anything else?
Yeah, I have a flashing light coming up on my cluster.
Which flashing light are you referring to?
Uh,
Could you
looks,
please describe it or tell me what it says?
yeah, it looks like a flashing angel light.
I am sorry, I cannot see images. Could you please describe the light for me?
Yeah, it's a flashing angel light.
Are you still there? How can I help you?
Well, so can you help me book an appointment with a dealer?
Are you still there? How can I help you?
So I think it's not taking. I think the audio is disconnected on that one.
Are you still there? How can I help you?
Maybe you can,
So I'm gonna,
here.
yeah, I'm gonna do it on my phone because I think it's audio is not working.
Are you still there? How can I help you?
Yeah.
Are you still there? How can I help you?
I'll kill it.
How do I kill it?
Just do this.
There you go.
That's it. Right. And we can kill this. So I'm gonna go on this one, which is where we test because it's not how we test. So. And I.
Hi there, I'm Sheeva Assist. How can I help you today with your car?
Hey, what's the model of my car again?
Your car model is a Lexus RX 450h. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Yeah, I see a flashing light on my instrument cluster.
Flashing light on your instrument cluster could indicate several things. Can you tell me which warning light is flashing?
Looks like it's a dipping oil.
I am sorry, I am not able to help with that. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Yeah, can you help me then set up an appointment with the dealer?
I can assist with dealerships in zip code 77040 or 22182. Which one do you prefer?
22182.
One moment, please. So we have Pohanka Lexus Chantilly and Lindsay Lexus of Alexandria in your preferred zip code. Which dealership would you like to use?
The Chantilly one.
What type of service do you need for your car?
I want them to check the engine light that's showing up.
Which date works for your service appointment?
How about tomorrow?
What time between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. works best?
10 a.m.
One moment, please. Your appointment is confirmed. You will receive a text message with your appointment details. Do you need help with anything else?
Yeah, I mean, can you find a fuel station near me, like a gas station?
One moment, please. I found a Sunoco gas station at 640 Eldon Street, Herndon, Virginia, with a 7 cents per gallon discount, and a Shell station at 3043 Centerville Road, Herndon, Virginia, with a 10 cents per gallon discount. Would you like another gas station?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you see, this is basically a prototype, and just for probably 3-4 days of effort, it does a very good job. I remember when we were trying to do same thing urgently, the quote that came to us from an India-based agency in Mumbai was $60,000. You can see the difference. I'm gonna go back here, unless I run out of my time, I don't know. So what we did was we built this one last year. And what we noticed was that when we gave it to our customer back in India, the very first question they asked was, how is my competitor's car better than my car? Think about answer. That was a stop for us. And then of course we went on RAG and a bunch of other stuff. And in this one, I'll show you what we did. But this is built on 11 labs. You can build the same thing on DeepGram. We did that as well. 11 labs allows you to do, and I'm not trying to tell 11 labs to you, so don't get me wrong, but that's the easiest thing for us. It allows you to do RAG right there. It allows you to hook into your APIs really quickly, and it allows you to hit any kind of a local client as well really quickly. And it allows you to debug in real time, looking at each conversation as to where is the time going. Is it in your RAG? Is it in your APIs? Is it in your WebRTC, where is it going? So you can do all of that stuff really, really quickly and decide where do you need to focus. And what you would notice in these kind of things is that LLMs, especially Gemini family, that has become very good. We can get of the order of, I think, 400 millisecond from response from that. WebRTC will give you about 200 millisecond. Your RAG depends how much data do you put, but generally that's the problem. And then of course the other problem is your APIs, which you are hitting. Because if you are hitting APIs on HTTP, which is what we did right now, that's going to consume a lot of time as well. So that's the extent of time that goes. I mean, you can look at, you can create tools. These are your APIs in there. You can define your APIs. You can return the response however you want from our systems. And you can monitor to see, okay, LLM to this much time, text to speech to this time, and all that stuff.
Could you show that list of the your stack or like what your stack was there? That one.
Yeah. LLMs for voice. We downloaded OEM manuals. We did pre-processing to remove all the images out of this because otherwise it's wasting your RAG bandwidth. We reduced the manual sizes. We came up with system prompt iteratively, and I think you mentioned that we built our system prompts all using ChatGPT. We did not build ourselves because we could not have built that level of a sophisticated YAML files. So we just gave it to it, saying, give me YAML, and then it did that. And then we wrapped the voice agent in the Lovable app. And of course, you can see that these slides are also built using Gamma. So everything that you saw today was all AI. We didn't do any work. And of course, we test. So I think that's all it is. Thank you. Yes.
I was thinking, I was curious, we did a prototype for the voice agent and we had a lot of trouble getting it. We never got that accurately repeat. These were for inbound calls, new sales calls, and it could not get name and email addresses and phone numbers. I mean, phone numbers because you were calling, but the name and the email address, it was just terrible at that. Are you finding 11 Labs is good? Because in your example, you're already looking up the customer because you already have some connection with their phone number, so you're not having to try to discover who they are. But how are you? Have you had to experiment with that at all?
Yeah. So the question for everybody else was that the trouble of doing the entity extraction that used to be terrible, at least in your example, has it been better for us? And the answer is that right now you have to actually, so you can do two things. What we did right now was that 11 Lab does a good job, right? Gemini especially, because that's what is behind the scenes. But you can also actually do a routing in between and send it to a small LLM that is actually specifically trained only to do entity extraction, and they do a good job. So,
And 11 Labs supports that.
yes, that's correct. Yes. Yes.
I also built one of these last year, and we had definitely some trouble using Whisper, but I was wondering what your prediction is for the ability of these systems to, I guess, differentiate between noise, multiple conversations, so like in a meeting kind of situation, as well as some of the intonation and the difference voice communication. You know, there's the way you say a word, or you can drag something out, well or well. For example, what is your prediction on advancement that we'll see?
So the question was, what do I think? And again, I'm not going to predict, but I'll tell you what I see in the industry. What do I think about the issues that are there about intonations, modulation, noise, echo, and all of that stuff? There is right now a very active field of research, and some of these models are already there. If you look at Deep Dam Flux, which just came out, or 11 Labs has one as well, there is a trend towards getting the voice models that are not coming through STT, meaning they are not doing speech to text and then feeding the text. The models are now directly being trained on the voice itself. And that is what is called real-time voice models. And I think that thing is becoming very good now. and understanding, all the aspects of noise and everything else. So how I see it, probably a couple years down the line, we will not be able to we will not have to worry about these problems anymore.
Any models for international language, like a non-English languages? How is the standard or maturity there?
Yeah, so if you look at the 11 Labs models right now support, I think, about 70 languages. And our tests, because we did it for Indian customer, our tests were on English, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu. And it fluently switches. And I didn't show you, but I could actually start speaking in the middle to Hindi and it will just switch automatically.
The quality wise, is it comparable?
Perfect. Perfect, no issue. You can even look at actually Gemini right now, which is, Gemini 2.5, not even 3, which came out today. 2.5 actually is very good in that one.
Thanks, Lokesh. You guys-
Thank you.
More questions? All right, our last but not least speaker, I've known a long time as well, Mohan Rose, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Knownwell, a leading product strategy, innovation, and technology. With 30 years of entrepreneurial and executive experience across multiple SaaS companies, many of which achieved successful exits, he has a strong track record of building high-performing product and technology organizations. Mohan previously held CPO, CTO, and COO roles at companies like Waystream, Street Cares, and Hobson's, and began his career at Deloitte and Verizon Labs. Outside of work, he enjoys tennis, biking, travel, and reading biographies. Welcome, Mohan.
Thanks, everybody. I don't know if I wrote this. I don't know who wrote that, but that sounds great to me. Let me. Okay, Knownwell, right? So we are a product company. We offer commercial intelligence to B2B services companies. That's what we do. We are a product company. We started the company in September of 2023. We did about 5 months of research before we wrote a single line of code. Spoke to maybe about 500 prospective customers, gathered a lot of data, came up with an idea, and then built a team and started working in starting building the product in February of 2024. And so we've been about 6-7 quarters into, and we are now at the point where we're going to be going GA in January. So we are at that cusp. We have about a dozen customers and probably another half dozen in trials, and then we're going to be going GA. So that's where we are. So here's the problem we are solving. Okay, we're solving what I call the Pulse Digital problem. This is our fictitious demo customer that we have in our platform. Pulse Digital is a marketing as a service company, marketing agency. Just imagine that there are about $50-75 million in revenue, maybe 400 or 500 people. It's a fictitious company that I'm describing. What happens in services companies is that as the company is trying to scale, Pulse Digital is trying to scale, they add more clients, they add more staff, there's more ambition. But every time they grow and have a growth spurt, what happens is they snap back into the long tail of smaller companies. It is really, really, really hard to scale services companies, which is why it is a barbell, right? So there are tons of great smaller companies. Solution Street is one of them. I've known Joel for a long time. Joel and Katie, thanks for having the meetup. I appreciate it. Really great smaller companies. And then there are the giants. You don't find that many $100 million services companies. There's a reason for that. They just do not scale. And there are many reasons for that. For example, the clients oftentimes trust the people more than the firm. It's the people working. The quality lived in the perception and not in hard metrics. Oh, XYZ is a good company, or they didn't deliver on this, or whatever it is. It's all perception. And then deals drifted out of alignment, sort of unnoticed. right? This is the essential problem in services companies. They were not failing. It is just that the model was unscalable, inherently unscalable, right? This is the problem. As we talked to these 500 prospective customers, we said, what could be the solution for this? Why don't these companies scale? As opposed to a SaaS company or a e-commerce company, there is a lot of data within the product, like who's using what. You can kind of start making predictions about customer growth, customer churn, and so on and so forth. But it's really hard to do that in services companies. So the way we solved it was we said, through our research, as we thought about this problem, we said, the issue is around, we boiled it down to what we call these three performance drivers. There is the service quality perception, interpersonal relationships, and commercial alignment. And underneath these three categories, there are several what we call performance themes that drive these categories, if you will. And we said it is just simply not, you can measure. And at the same time, in 2023, it was a few months after LLMs had become popular. And we said one of the things that's there in services companies, especially, is a lot of conversational intelligence, right? Everyone is talking to everyone all the time, right? So, teams are talking among themselves. There are internal meetings going on. There are meetings with customers and clients going on. All of this is unstructured data that is just there in the enterprise today that was not there before. And technologies were starting to emerge in terms of how to analyze the unstructured data. Essentially, in a nutshell, the problem statement is that we help firms like Pulse Digital scale to the excellence that once held them back. And moreover, I'll say, just in terms of problem definition, the highest performing professional services firms get 85% of the revenue and 70% of the growth from existing clients, right? It's not from new clients, from existing clients. And yet, an average firm spends more, 7x more in acquiring new clients than to figure out how they're doing with existing clients, right? There is just this paradox of services. These were all the things that we were observing as we did our research. And we said, hey, here is a problem we can solve. There are emerging technologies around this. And how do we create a product around this? So essentially what we do is we focus on post-sale client health and expansion. You prioritize account health and expansion, establish the rigor in what we call commercial operations. Sales operations is one thing. The rigor already exists for some reason, but it's not there on the commercial operations side. It's almost like companies build teams and then they just send them off to the clients, maybe virtually, and just say, good luck, I hope you come out alive. Right? So it's kind of how things work often, which is really the problem. You're not measuring. And then you ask the account manager, how's it going? And it's Friday, you have to fill out a red, yellow, green status report. And the account manager says, it's yellow. Like it's so subjective, right? So, and it's just not the way to scale. And that's why these 50, 75, $100 million companies start just kind of falling down. When they had maybe about 20 clients, the partner, a couple of partners could keep it all in their head, could synthesize all this in their head. And as the companies became bigger and bigger and bigger, it was really hard to solve this problem. I'll start moving slowly into our solution. So I hope everybody got a good sense of the problem we're trying to solve. Here is sort of how we think of our product. We have a commercial intelligence engine. Essentially, you take all of the unstructured data in a company that is flowing in and out of the company, marry it with some structured data from CRMs and whatever, and to create this intelligence around how is the client doing, what are the relationships, is there good commercial alignment? Because there's so many conversations that are going on in a company that it doesn't rise to the central operations or to the partner or whoever it is. It just gets lost. And then we have a commercial workbench, which is all about generative deliverables. I want to create a QBR deck. I want to create a status report, so on and so forth, but also be able to see a 360-degree view of the client. And then we have what we call XO.AI, which is our chief of staff persona. So what we are saying is everybody in the company should have a digital chief of staff, and it's going to be that XO that's going to be the chief of staff, where you can chat and say, what are the next best actions I can take with this client? I'm an account manager. Or if the client texts you and says, hey, I want to talk to you at 10 o'clock, or do you have time? And then you're like suddenly scurrying around and saying, what's going on with this client? Why did I get a text? You can go to XOAI and say, just tell me what's going on, what's the latest with this client, and you just get a sense, because there's so much natural information that has been synthesized in, and be able to. So that is the third module that we have. We focused a lot on the commercial intelligence engine. That is sort of what we're specialized in. The other two are, we have initial work that's done in those two areas. This is just about how the product looks, just a couple screenshot that says, hey, here is the score of a particular client. It's 68 out of 200. And the trend is important. It's gone down from 90 to 68, and I want to know why did it go down, right? So it's almost like a FICO score. There are some active fires going on, and there is some intelligence about who is talking to whom. I should have called the client, but I didn't call the client, and just kind of create a composite of the intelligence about client. Just hope that gives you a good funding, grounding in, the problem we're trying to solve, and some high level product architecture. Just going to dive more into the technical side of it. What we do, like I said, is we provide commercial intelligence. That's what we call it. There was nothing else we had to come up with a new name. Commercial intelligence for us means, what is the propensity of the client to continue to do business with you, potentially be able to expand the business, and a general measure of health. That's what we call commercial intelligence in the Knownwell score. We are ingesting operational, communication, CRM, and financial data. We're taking it all in. So think of it as like a streaming data, lots of volumes and volumes and volumes of data that's flowing in. We model relationship and commercial health. We detect risks. We provide layered intelligence. I'll go into layered intelligence more. But fundamentally, what it is not is, it's not a workflow system, not a task manager. It's not a chatbot wrapper. It is the ability to reason from all of these unstructured data that's come in, to create some intelligence, so that the account managers and the VP of account management, the delivery manager, has intelligence in terms of being able to take the right actions. The real challenge here has been around let me make this a little bigger, has been around 75 to 80% of the data is unstructured, especially today, right? So with so many Zoom calls and Teams calls going on, there is just a lot of operational exhausts that are just coming out, and it's just not getting harnessed, right? And then there is the sentiment analysis you can do on it. Then you can look at the financial impact. But from an architectural perspective, the question is, how do you transform all of these chaotic signals that are coming in into reliable, structured, actionable intelligence? That is like the core architectural challenge here, right? So that's what we're trying to solve. Then the question is, why isn't a traditional CRM being able to do that? Before the meetup, I was talking to somebody about CRMs and data hygiene and so on and so forth. B2B companies generally use CRMs in the sales and marketing, in the go-to-market motion. But once a prospect becomes a client, CRMs are not used. It may be used for keeping contacts, it may be used for keeping contracts, but it's really not used beyond that. So we had to start thinking about, what is the role of CRM versus what is it that we are building? Legacy CRMs also have the trap of manual entry, it's subjective, it's stale, just wasn't cutting it. The data entry tax is real, all right? Nobody wants to sit and enter stuff in any of the CRMs. Ultimately, it's not client-centric. It's good for go-to-market motions, but it's not client-centric. So we had to start thinking about what does a native AI solution architecture look like? There is an integration. It has to be integration native. Obviously, there's a lot of data that's coming in. It also has to be ambient. If you're going to be a chief of staff persona, you have to you have to make sure that there's a different type of UX around this. There has to be it has to be memory centric as it goes through different layers of processing. It has to remember things, and there are multiple specialized agents as you process through that we had to build through. Didi, how much time do you have? 2 minutes. Okay, I'll then zip through this. Okay, cool. Ultimately, in building this type of fairly sophisticated pipelines, here is the challenge our architects will encounter. To create intelligence, you require structure. To create structure, you need pipelines. To create pipelines, you need thoughtful entity designs. The question is, how do you get entity designed out of unstructured data, right? I mean, that's the type of problem that we had to solve. And the way we solved it was, we have a multimodal ingestion layer. Then we create an entity graph. We model what is a client, what's people, what are the relationships, and then we layered intelligence. Layered intelligence for us just means you process some data through an LLM, and that creates an interim asset, and then you add more data to it and create more intelligence, and just you layer it on. And then there's the ambient UX. I won't go into that, but just sort of going on the orchestration layer that we've built. We call it Cortex. We have built this internal engine for our orchestration layer of a large scale multi-context reasoning pipeline. And essentially that consists of 3 layers. There is the entity graph foundation, which is the ontology. That is the backbone of the intelligence system that we've built. And then there is this multipass reasoning, lots of pipelines, ingestion, analysis, action pipeline. Within these pipelines, there are multiple pipelines. Ultimately, you're refining, and trying to get to a point. And the critical thing for us has been, yes, you can use LLMs and get intelligence, but it has to be backed up by some rubrics, right? And these rubrics come from domain knowledge. And as I said, these are the 3 major categories that we said: service quality perception, relationship strength, commercial alignment. And the reason for that is you take non-deterministic data and deal with drift that the LLMs inherently have, and come to some consistent auditable methodology that then you can roll out in a product. That's how we built this out. The key to us has been kind of the deep domain knowledge in services, but also kind of the AI native platform that was really important. Otherwise, we could not have solved this problem. I hope that gave you a quick sense of 7 quarters of work. Any questions? Yes.
In your architect, is there database involved to hold this unstructured data for a pipeline?
So we take the unstructured data into, we are built on GCP, so we put it in BigQuery, and from there we process it. For the application, we have a database. Otherwise, it's a set of BigQuery infrastructure.
So I know one of the things that I've seen people talking a lot about now is graph rag, where it's a knowledge base and rag kind of put together, and it sounds like with your entity component here, that's sort of what you've come to as well. Is that what you're seeing, that rag's not enough? You need sort of a graph as well.
Yeah, we have created a graph rag by having graph and then a structured database that has a graph and that works together. But once we have graph rags, it's going to make that portion of the architecture a lot simpler for us.
And are you using, so you built this all, you're not using like Llama Index or something for any of the part of the orchestration or parsing or ingestion?
We will do it all ourselves.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're gonna hang around a bit, so if you have more questions for anyone, feel free to